Two pieces of academic achievement that I looked at Baltimore Highlands was our reading and math club. We have reading and math club offered for grades 3 through 5. It's an after school program, and it specifically targets students who we believe could do well on Park. So it's essentially a test prep club. And it's for students who did well on Park the following or the year before, have done well on our school assessments, and who we think with just an extra push could do well. So again, because we do just have so many farm students, you'll see looking at the data that most of the students who participate in the after school math club are free and reduced lunch. I thought it was interesting that in 3rd grade, the reading club, only 62% were free and reduced lunch. One thing I reflected on is it's really hard to get kids to stay after school and want to do more schoolwork. So it probably the students who I taught the 3rd grade club, the students who did want to say were really motivated, had parents who really pushed them, and who want to see them succeed. Not that other parents don't, but these students I felt like didn't have as much on their plate, whereas other students I have, they have to go home and help their kids or siblings with homework and make dinner. It's also kind of uncomfortable because you have to be invited to reading and math club. So if your scores are too high, you don't need the extra push. And if your scores are too low with an extra push, you still won't perform. So it's not really a fair way to, it doesn't encourage kids to want to do well, because students who ask to join, they either can't because, they're not going to score high enough on Park, or they're high enough already. And how do you really say that to kids? So I didn't think it's a great system to really motivate our students who do come from this cycle of poverty, who are clearly showing the motivation they want to stay after, but we only invite a certain group of kids. And a lot of times they don't stay after school. Parents pick them up early. They say they're bored, whereas I have other students begging me to join. So just an interesting system we have. Some other interventions that we have for students who are below grade level, we had a program called RISE. It's like guided reading on steroids. Students would go to this program for an hour a day and get an intense phonics, writing, fluency, and then like a guided reading lesson in an hour. It was only for grades 1 and 2. And it's for those kids who are just about to be on grade level to get them pushed up to grade level. But it was not done school-wide. And one reflection I had is I don't think we do enough for our students who are not on grade level. Obviously, in the classroom, teachers make accommodations, but we clearly have staff and teachers who will stay after school to do these after school clubs, yet we only open it up for students to basically do test prep. We have, ESOL and special ed services, but, there are pros and cons of that just in working with teachers who are not in your room, conflicting schedules if students are absent. Sometimes all these interventions, it can be difficult to schedule, but we do have students who want to learn and do well, and I don't think opportunities are always provided to them, even students who are not below grade level, to really excel. This was just a demographic breakdown. 75% of our students at our school are of color. In my class, I had 55%. The students who are special ed and are of color are about 68%. We do have a high percentage of students of color in our school, but one thing I just kind of reflected on is to be mindful of who we are identifying as special ed, and that we aren't over-identifying students of color. Yes, we have 75% of our students are of color, but we've seen the negatives of tracking and labeling students, and special ed is something that will follow them. And just to think about those implications maybe before we're quick to label someone or refer somebody for special ed. Obviously, if they need the services, then that's different. We do not have any gifted or talented classes, just the advanced academic class in 5th grade. In my class, I had 11 students out of 29 who were below grade level, and 7 of them were of color. So I talked about this earlier, that we really don't have a diverse teaching staff. 2 out of 34 are male, all the rest are female, and all teaching staff is white, which is really a shame. The people of color who we have in our building are janitorial staff, cafeteria staff, IAs, but nobody who's a classroom teacher. And that's also reflected in the school board. Only 4 out of 12 of those people are of color. So it seems like, this is a trend that starts from high up and works its way down, but that really is, on our administration's shoulders. And I did show them this data, and they, were shocked to see that. And they said, we really need to do a better job. And I almost kind of wanted to say, why haven't you? But, I'd be curious to see how many applicants they do get a year, how many are of color. I know it's, a challenging school academically and behavior-wise. We're Title I. So I'm not sure what their application pool looks like, but I definitely noted that that was a weakness of our school, and we need to do better for our students of color. This was a table showing proficiency for 3rd graders who are proficient on math and ELA. You'll see that our Hispanic students outperform the white students, which I thought was very interesting. They do make up a higher percentage of students at our school, but that's usually not how the bell curve falls. So I thought that was really interesting to see in our school. But for the other students of color, African American, and our students who are 2 or more races, really, especially the students who are 2 or more races, really are not showing proficiency. And, what can we do to better represent and serve those students? Another thing I noticed was that 3rd graders tended to be more proficient on math than ELA, which I spoke about a little bit earlier. Math seems to be something that students have more confidence going into. They've seen these numbers before, these images, they can pick up a strategy and at least feel confidence to attack a problem. Whereas ELA, you read the first 3 sentences, you don't understand it, and you're checked out. I looked at the number of students who were in the 4th grade reading club who showed proficiency on the ELA assessment. And if you look at the data, it wasn't a huge pool, but there were no students who showed proficiency on PARCC from the year before. So, we're so keen to invite these kids back who've done well the year before. They'll really show promise. So are we not giving students who maybe have lower scores but higher motivation, we're not giving them an opportunity to really push themselves? So are we taking away a huge pool of potential by only inviting students who have high scores to join the club? Oh, we're good. So then I looked at the data, if they're not showing proficiency as a 4 or 5, what are their scores on PARCC? And so most of them fell in the range of 2 or 3. So they're kind of right in the middle. They're getting there. So 60% of the 4th graders in math club were a level 3, 33% of our Hispanic students level 3. So, we have some potential, but we are not traditionally proficient on PARCC. So just reflecting back on that table, nobody scored a 4 or 5 proficiency level on PARCC in our reading or math clubs. They were either a 2 or 3. And then I just noted again that the Hispanic students showed a higher level of proficiency on math and ELA versus their white and student of color classmates. our African American and students who are two or more races across the board score lower than their white classmates. And I think that's a piece of data that my staff really needs to focus on, especially since combined, our students of color make up a larger population of students at our school than our white students. So by focusing on those subgroups, we would be targeting a higher population of students than by focusing on the white students. In my classroom, I had 4 ELLs. In the school, we had 133, so about 18%. We have 47 students who were labeled special ed, and then 11 out of those 47 were ELLs. I do think we have a higher percentage of students who are ELL and special ed, but a lot of time administration does not want you to refer those ELL students for special ed because they say it's their language that's what's holding them back and not a specific learning disability. And last year I really had to fight hard to get a student special ed services who absolutely needed them. And they were very reluctant to do that because he was an ESOL student. Again, talking about the gifted class in 5th grade, one of them is an ELL. We don't have any gifted or talented classes in the 3rd grade. We have 3 staff members who are bilingual, which has been a huge, huge help. I think it totally changes the culture of the school that any parent who walks through the front door now feels like they're in a safe, comfortable environment where they can get the resources that they need. There are no bilingual people serving on the school board, but all of the handouts we send home are translated. Looking at the members who were in the after-school math club who were ELL, in 3rd grade, 16% of students were ELLs, in 4th grade, 38.9%, and in 5th grade, 19%. So that follows, there's definitely more in 4th grade, but our ELLs make up about 18% of our population, so this data is pretty equal with that. Then I wanted to compare ELLs to their white students on proficiency levels on PARCC, and you'll see that white students really outperform their ELL classmates. Even though they make up about the same population of students in our school. We have 177 white students, 133 ELL students. So same amount of students, but 33% of 4th grade white students show proficiency, whereas only 7.1% of 4th grade ELLs do. Less than 5% and less than 5% of 3rd and 4th grade students show proficiency on ELA, where they're white students in ELA, 8.3% of 3rd graders and 23.8% of 4th graders show proficiency. So this data is really glaring considering there's the same amount of them in our school. So what are we not doing with our ELLs that we can get them to reach the same level of proficiency as their white classmates? Looking at the special ed data, as I said, there were 47 students identified for special ed, and some of those diagnoses were speech and language, autism, a specific learning disability, emotional disabilities, but all of our special ed services are in the form of pull out or push in. We don't have a specific special ed classroom, so I do think that's a testament to our school that we really are full inclusion for our special ed students. And I do think the students in our classes are really flexible with working with not only special ed students, but ELLs. It's a very flexible and diverse group of students. So then I looked at special ed students who are asked to join the after school math and reading club, and you'll see it's a pretty small percentage. And again, just reflecting back on who we asked to stay, are these a pool of students that really have high levels of motivation, but we're not inviting them to after school reading math club because of their scores.